This is the Uptick Newswire Stock Day podcast, sponsored by InvestorsHangout.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube to stay up to date on penny stock news and interviews, public information on OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world, with your host, Everett Jolly.
On today's show, I'm bringing you a company that was back on the show in January, February of 2018. We're talking about Adamera Minerals Corp. They trade on the OTCPink sheets under the ticker symbol DDNFF. They also trade on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol ADZ. Their market cap's only around 5.3 million US, trading around 4 cents a share US, very, very undervalued. And with us today is the CEO, Mark Kolebaba. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You know, give my listeners a little bit about statement, how you guys are a junior exploration company, and just kind of bring us up to speed about what you guys are doing up there in Canada.
Yeah, well, we're a Canadian company. We're working 100% in the U.S. We're working in Washington State. The reason we're there is there's a little mining district called Republic, and this area has produced about 6 million ounces of gold, and it's high grade. There's a mill in the region. It's currently under care and maintenance as of last year, and we're exploring around that, trying to find more ore to feed that mill, essentially.
You know, can you let us know about the Key West drill results? They were kind of interesting. I know that you guys did one hole, and maybe give us some results on that.
Yeah. Again, one of the things that we like about the area is we think it's very much underexplored, especially by modern methods. One of the things we did a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago now, is we flew a really modern survey, a VTEM survey it's called, and it uses electro-magnetics. And we flew a pretty big area. And one of the areas that we identified was the Key West area. Key West is an area that was mined in the 1990s. There's an open pit there. And we developed a very large conductor near that, an EM conductor. So we stepped out of that mine area about 300 meters, drilled a single hole into this conductor, and we hit a zone of gold that had up to 5 grams per ton gold. So pretty good success based on that type of methodology. It was a single hole. So what we need to do now is go back to that area where we got one hole and start drilling it with probably 5 to 10 holes to see if we can identify an area of concentration where we can put together a proper resource. You know,
the Cook Mountain project there in Washington State, you don't hear a lot of gold coming out of Washington State. Why did you guys pick that area?
Well, yeah, Washington State a couple of years ago was probably the 5th largest producing state in all of the U.S., actually.
Really?
And it had, and it was one mine called the Buckhorn Mine, and it was producing gold with an average grade of about 12 grams per ton, and that was the 3rd highest grade mine in all of the U.S. So it's a pretty significant area. I mean, it doesn't, it's much smaller than something like Nevada, but it's still a pretty good district for gold exploration. Why did we pick that? Because there's a mill there, and the mine that was operating was running out of ore. So we really like that model where we can get in there and start to pick away at, it's a brownfields operation. We're doing surveys in areas, and we as I say, within the shadows of the head frame. And we're having some pretty good success finding new high-grade zones.
Company that we're highlighting today here on Stock Day is Adamera Minerals Corp. Well, they trade on the OTC markets under the ticker symbol DDNFF. They also trade on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol ADZ. You know, Mark, a lot of the companies that are on the OTC markets have a lot of problems, mostly financial. Where do we go from here? Do you guys have enough money to get you to the next leg? Can you tell us maybe some of the grade that you're overlooking right now on the Cook Mountain project?
Yeah, before we drilled out at the Key West, one of the other projects we did do some drilling was around the Overlook deposit. And the Overlook deposit was also mined in the 1990s. We put a drill hole, a fairly deep drill hole that went below the existing workings of that area, and we hit a zone that had 10 grams per ton gold over about 11 meters. And that's a really good opportunity for us. So now that's telling us that there's maybe a zone, we don't know how big, but there might be a zone below that mine that has not yet been mined. So in saying that, we've taken as much data as we can. We're doing a 3D model, trying to understand where we would drill next. About 400 meters from that mine last year, we also drilled a target, and we hit some pretty high-grade intersections again, high up in the stratigraphy, 10 grams over 1 or 2 meters, but also 6.5 grams over 3 meters. And these were, I call them accidental discoveries. We were trying to test something at depth, and we hit these things quite shallow, 20 and 60 meters depth. And you can't see them with the magnetics we do. You cannot see them with the electromagnetics. So here's a target now that's new to us, and we've now come up with a new way of targeting these things. It's very inexpensive for us, and we're developing new broad areas where we might see some pretty high grade distribution.
I saw that you guys put out some latest news about the two trends you kind of focus on. I think one was the lame foot trend and the overlook trend. Can you bring us up to speed on both of those?
Yeah, everything we've done up until now mostly has been on the overlook trend. And the lame foot trend is about 6 kilometers to the west. And we call it the lame foot trend because there's a lame foot deposit. That's just under 1 million ounces of pretty high grade ore. And we've developed a trend that's a north-south trending area where we've identified 2 projects, Goodfoot and what we call Lame Foot South. And on these projects, we've done a lot of targeting. We've done various geophysical surveys, lots of soil geochemistry, and we've developed these targets that I would say are quite high priority. And one in particular is about 280 meters from that known Lame Foot deposit. The trend is 7 kilometers long by our definition, and we've got a target that's got some good size to it in terms of its expression in the surface, which is only about 280 meters from that deposit. So we're really excited by that, and what we will do now is get our permits in place and get ready to start drilling that this summer.
You know, what can we expect from the company now that you guys are just a junior exploration? Where do we go from here? Do we farm it out? Maybe just give us a little bit of an explicit of where we go here for the next 2 or 3 quarters.
Yeah, so a lot of our targets are quite shallow. They're within, say, 25 to 50 meters depth.
Right.
Or even up to 10 meters. So we're doing a lot of shallow drilling. This is really inexpensive drilling for us, and we can cover a lot of targets. And most importantly, we can get into these targets and put more than one hole into these now and start testing. We'll raise a small amount of money just to get us through this, but not a lot, just a couple $100,000. And we're set up to really do a lot of work this summer. We've got a lot of targets, and we've got a lot of confirmed mineralized zones that we want to advance and test.
Well, I think your stock's still very undervalued here at 4 cents. You've even been listening to Adamera Minerals Corp. With us is Mark Kolebaba, CEO of the company. They trade on the OTC markets under the ticker symbol DDNFF. They also trade on the TSX Venture up there under the ticker symbol ADZ. Mark, in closing, is there anything that we didn't get a chance to touch upon that you would like to illustrate to my listeners?
I would like to just say that we are quite undervalued, and I think we've got no shortage of targets. We have got the means of, we're really good at testing these targets. We're really good at developing targets, and I think we're going to have a very exciting summer coming up.
Mark, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on here. Please do not be a stranger. Come back on 40 to 50 days and give us an update of what's going on up there in Washington.
You bet. Thanks very much. I really appreciate coming on your show.
This program is entirely sponsored and produced by Uptick Newswire, LLC, which is responsible for the content. The opinions and information provided on this program are those of the guests and those of the respective companies they represent, and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff or management of Uptick Newswire. Uptick Newswire encourages all listeners of this program to do their due diligence and research when determining investment strategies that will work for them, or to seek the assistance of an investment professional. The guests of this program may have paid for its distribution and are not directly affiliated with Uptick Newswire or this station.